Hello everyone, welcome back to Dark Night Tales. Before we dive in, please show your support, give this video a like and be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. So let's get started. The first story. Creepy man in the middle of a mountain road in the winter. This happened almost 25 years ago. Way before cell phones were a thing. When I was 17, my brother, 13 at the time, and I were traveling in northern British Columbia in mid-November. This is important as the darkness at this time of year in the mountains is absolute. We were in the Pine Pass between Chetwynd and Prince George, BC. Anyone who knows this area knows how desolate it is. I'm talking hundreds of kilometers between gas stations and any kind of people/buildings. We were just about at the Powder King Ski Resort turnoff and it was getting late. We pulled into a roadside turnout around 10:30 p.m. because I was super tired. My brother was already sleeping. I pull in and park near some tourist signage, lock my doors and put my seat back to sleep. I dead asleep when something snapped me awake. To this day I'm not sure what it was that woke me up. I was looking around trying to figure out what was happening when all of a sudden my car was surrounded by 4/5 men. They started yanking on the door handles trying to get in the car. I'm not sure if they saw I was awake or not, but I sat up and slammed the car and drive and peeled out of there. I'm not sure if I hit one of the or not, and I didn't care to check. I didn't stop again until my auntie's house in Prince George. Was one of the most terrifying times in my life. So to the 4/5 men in the Pine Pass who tried to get into a car with 2 kids, I hope I ran at least one of your feet over. The second story. I was almost kidnapped twice when I was in 5th grade. This is real. One day my best friend and I were taking a shortcut to her house. It goes past a few houses and through a small area of woods, crossing a 2-foot wide creek. This particular day, I was wearing one of those jackets that had earbuds as the strings, a must-have item as a 5th grader in 2010-11. As we were passing one of the houses, a couple big dogs come running from it, jumping on us and obviously just wanting to play/be petted. The owner of the house comes out, and I noticed right away that he was acting really fidgety and nervous, saying stuff about the dogs like, "Oh, it's okay, they're nice, don't worry." We made small talk with him about the dogs for a few minutes and turned around to leave. About a minute or so later we arrived at the small creek when I noticed that one of the rubber earbuds that was on my jacket was gone. And I insisted on going back to look for it. The guy came back out again and offered to help us. He asked what the material was made of and I said it was made of rubber. We made small talk again. I think about the jacket and how cool it was. Anyway, he said he was going to be right back with his metal detector. He walked away towards his shed and I said to my friend, "Why does he need a metal detector? The earbud is made of rubber." Next thing you know, he's coming back with, ISHTU not, a rifle, and he is literally running towards us. When I'm telling you we ran. When we got to safety, past the creek and near her house, I was telling her we needed to call 911. She insisted that we not do that because her parents would be mad at her. I explained to her with urgency why it's important we called the cops, but she refused and I couldn't force her. I didn't call because I didn't want to do it alone, plus it would have been my first time calling them. I can't remember when/if I told my parents that night what happened, but when I told them, they gaslit me and said I was crazy/overreacting, that I didn't really see that. I still think about this near every day and it haunts me. The second time was, again, in 5th grade, taking place after the first story, but I'm not sure how long after. The friend from the previous story lived near a cemetery, about a 5-minute walk from her house. It was a big cemetery and we liked to walk around it a lot, plus behind the cemetery was a shortcut through the woods to a big park, which was coincidentally right next to our school. This day we were also with another good friend of ours. We were just walking around the cemetery this day when all of a sudden, a blue truck pulls up next to us in the row next to where we were walking, about 10 feet away or so, not far. I could see 2 guys were in it literally just staring at us, and I again got that weird feeling I got with the first guy. This is hard to explain, but right before the shortcut in the woods is a fence with a cutout that leads to a field of grass and a hill next to it that leads into the neighborhood of where my other friend lived. The hill was really a bunch of dead grass, weeds, sticks, cattails, etc. Anyway, I told my friends I had a bad feeling about these guys, that they were staring at us and quite literally slowly following us with the truck. We booked it to that grass field and through that hill. I had all sorts of cuts and gashes from all the SHT that we were running through. When we got to the top of the hill, we turned around and the truck was parked at the top of the hill on the other side, with both men outside of it holding guns/rifles. I truly believe they were coming after us, and they were visibly mad that we got away from them. I knew they were after us because they had to have driven through the cutout in the fence, amongst the gut feelings and just the entire situation. We ran to my friend's house, noticed her parents, who truly didn't seem too worried, and drove my other friend and me home. I don't even remember if I told my parents about this time since they gaslit me when I told them about the last time. I just can't shake the fact that this SHT really happened, when I was in 5th grade, 10-11 years old. I also can't believe how lightly my parents took the situation. I'm honestly traumatized about what happened and I think about it a lot. I just needed to tell some people what happened, but I have trouble getting my thoughts into words. The third story. Weird lurker who terrified neighborhood dogs. Years ago I babysat for a family friend regularly, and conveniently another close family friend, Jem, lived joined on next door to the house. So when the kids I looked after were in bed, we would sit in the front gardens, cup of coffee in hands, nattering over the hedge for an hour or two. We lived in a small rural village, the type where everyone knows one another, and if something is going down the gossip spreads like wildfire. The house where I used to babysit had a terrifying 14-stone Rottweiler called Barney, which TBH I wouldn't get too close to as he seemed unpredictable. He would always be stood on his two back legs at the wrought iron gate joined to the wall of the house, growling at anyone who got too close. The house was on a housing estate, with these two particular houses being next to a footpath that led to the rest of the estate. One particular evening the kids had gone to bed and I was outside as usual talking to Jem over the hedge. It was slowly becoming darker and she mentioned something about some weird guy being seen around the village that day, but that was about the extent of it. Not long after that, a couple of the local teenagers walked past and stopped to chat. It was just small talk at first, but I asked what they were up to and the older girl of the two said, "Mom wants us to go home before it's too dark as there is this weird scruffy bloke hanging around." I told them they should probably hurry up and side-eyed my friend. They said their goodbyes, left. Me and Jem spoke about it briefly as she told me no one knew who he was and he hadn't been seen round here before, but was apparently really creepy. As it got colder we said goodnight and I went inside to wait for the children's mum to come home from work. Shortly after, as I watched Ellie, Jem's dog next door, started going berserk, I could hear him through the walls. Then seconds later Barney, who was outside, started aggressively barking and hammering himself against the wrought iron fence to the point that the walls on that side of the building vibrated. I had never heard him sound so worked up before that. He was trying to get at something and I sure as hell wasn't going outside to calm him down. Before I can even get up to look out the window, I heard the two boxer dogs from next door on the other side start going crazy. At this point I am at the front window wondering what's getting them all so agitated, as this seemed beyond the normal warning bark of dogs. I see the back of some tall bedraggled guy with long straggly hair lurching down the footpath onto the estate. He wore what looked like a green anorak style coat which billowed behind him. He passes a couple more doors up and more dogs start aggressively yapping at him as he passes. Even more strangely, some of these dogs were indoors and yet I could still hear them frantically barking. As he passed out of my view I could tell roughly which direction he was going, as the cacophony of a dozen dogs barking could be heard flaring up along his route. It was crazy how normal sound was drowned out by the barking. They sounded territorial and deranged. Jem called me on my mobile after they had calmed down and asked me if I had seen him walking past. I told her I had and remarked about the dogs acting insane as he went by. She also said it was weird as her dog Muttley had never acted so berserk before. We didn't know what to make of it, and as far as I am aware he was never seen again after that night. I had never witnessed so many animals acting so aggressively at an individual before, and I have always wondered what it was about him that made them behave like that. Not an overly creepy experience, but one weird night I will never forget. The fourth story. Guy chasing me at 5 a.m. Hey everybody. English isn't my first language, so I'm sorry for all potential mistakes. Context: So when this story took place I was 12 meters. I live in Europe, big city, unfortunately not very safe district. It was late June, me and my friend, Lucas, were having a sleepover at our friend's, Damien, house. We ate pizza, played video games etc. Somewhere around 3 a.m. Damien fallen asleep. We tried to keep him awake, but he just said he's going to bed. We played games some more, but quickly got bored. Lucas started insisting on leaving. After some time I agreed. We tried to wake Damien up and tell him we're leaving. To be honest, he was half asleep and I'm not sure if he understood anything we said. He was like, whatever, let me go back to sleep. So around 4:30 a.m. we left. As I said, it was June, so the sun was rising. And it was already pretty bright. We walked for a little and then I saw something strange. Someone's legs were sticking out of the window of some little store. I showed it to Lucas and he asked what's going on? And at that exact moment the legs moved really fast. We were totally scared. Because of the early hour, it was a weekend, we were completely alone. I just said we should run to our homes as fast as possible. And that is exactly what we did. Our houses were located in two different directions, so I quickly lost him from my sight. At some point I decided to slow down and look back, and then I saw that this guy who was trying to get into that store was following me. At that moment I was scared for my life. This guy screamed, "Hey kid, come here, I just wanna talk." I started to run again. He was still running after me. He screamed again, "Hey kid, just one question." I looked back and shouted, "What?" Then he replied, "What hour it is?" So I said it was something around 5 a.m. He just replied okay and walked away. After maybe 10 minutes I was back at home. My mom was already awake. She was really surprised I was home this early and got really mad I was walking alone this early. She got that angry that I decided not to tell her this story in fear of being grounded. Few days later I overheard my parents talking about this store which was robbed in my neighborhood. So yeah, I'm happy that this guy just resigned on chasing me. The fifth story. Creepy guy in my backyard. So this takes place around my junior year in high school, back when Slender Man was just getting started. I didn't believe in him at all, until one night my dogs were in the dog run, what we called the side yard meant for our dogs, barking to be let back in. Except this time it sounded like they were mad for some reason, like they were trying to scare something away. So I go to the dog run to let them back in, and in the corner my eye see a tallest dude standing at the gate in my backyard. He looked at first glance just like the description. Tall, thin, lanky and no discernible face since it was dark out. I was legit scared shitless, and the more I looked at him the more I got scared. So I yell at my dogs to come back inside and get to work on putting it out of my mind. Because of course it imagined it, Slender Man isn't real. Could he be? I never saw the guy or thing again and forgot completely about it until recently I realized that it was more likely a guy trying to silence my dogs so he could break in and do God knows what to my family. Of course I know that Slender Man isn't real though, but I'd almost prefer that I imagined him rather than knowing what could have happened if that were a real person. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.